an overview of Bolshevik ideology, the October coup 1917 and early Soviet government. The March Revolution ended more than 300 years of the Romanov rule when Tsar Nicholas II was forced to abdicate. Led by Vladimir Lenin since it split from the Mensheviks in 1903, the Bolshevik Party followed a Marxist philosophy that advocated a free and egalitarian society in which there was equality of wealth. Other features include a small, tightly organized, highly disciplined vanguard of full-time revolutionaries to organize the proletariat for the coming revolution. A dictatorship of the proletariat and centralized government. This would mean a government representing the majority of the population but prepared to use force to control the minority that still opposed it. An anticipation of socialist revolutions across Europe in which Russia would play a key role. A global class struggle in which the old Russian ruling class would be eliminated. On his return from exile in April, Lenin began pushing for revolution. His April theses outlined how this was to be done. Regaining control of the Soviets, provoking class war, ending Russian involvement in the war and assisting the workers to seize the factories while the peasants seizing the land. However, the failed July uprising resulted in Lenin fleeing to Finland while many leading Bolsheviks were arrested. Their prospects improved in September when the Bolsheviks came to the rescue of the provisional government. The government was discredited and the Bolsheviks gained valuable arms, discipline and experience. On the evening of November 6th, groups of Bolshevik Red Guards, aided by sailors from the Baltic Fleet, were moving through the city, taking over key buildings, including the Winter Palace. The next morning, Lenin announced the fall of the government and the transfer of all power to the Soviets. He used this majority to form an all-Bolshevik government, the Council of People's Commissars, Savnarkom, with himself as chairman, and begins implementing social and political reforms, including approving land seizures by peasants, forming the Cheka, banning all other political parties, dismantling the police and bureaucracy, dissolving the Constituent Assembly, and changing the Bolsheviks' name to the Communist Party in 1918. The Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, the Civil War and the introduction of the new economic policy. The new government rapidly issued the Decree on Peace, and an armistice was signed with the Central Power in December 1917. Wanting a peace without annexations and indemnities, Lenin Trotsky walked out of negotiations in response to the Germans' demands. The treaty was only signed on 3 March 1918, after the Germans resumed the offensive into Russian territory and Lenin threatened to resign. The treaty was harsh and, as much, was universally rejected and denounced. Anti-German and anti-Bolshevik feelings ran high. However, the treaty did give the new Soviet government the freedom from international conflict that it needed to consolidate its rule. In May 1918, the Bolsheviks faced civil wars as a range of counter-revolutionary forces attempted to reverse the revolution. The Bolshevik Red Army was opposed by 4 white armies, which represented a range of opposition groups. Trotsky, as Commissar for War, took command of the Red Army in March 1918 and recruited thousands of officers from old Imperial Army. Compulsory services were introduced for all workers and peasants, and hostages were taken and frequently shot to deter deserters. From May 1918, a number of foreign armies assisted the Whites, intervening in Russia in an attempt to distract the Germans from the Western Front, create a new Eastern Front and protect Allied interests in Russia. By 1921, The Red Army had defeated all opposition and reconquered most of the territories that had previously constituted the Russian Empire. War communism was introduced to cope with the demands of civil war and to help propel the country into socialism. This consisted of rapid industrialization of all industry, food requisitioning from peasants, rationing and banning of private trade. Peasants slaughtered their livestock rather than handing over supplies to the government. Thousands died of starvation as food grew scarce, and diseases such as typhoid and cholera became epidemic. War communism resulted in a decline in production in all sections and the near-total collapse of the Russian economy. The new economic policy, NEP, was introduced in 1921 and was intended to meet Russia's urgent need for food and prepare the economy for more effective socialization. The NEP represented a mixed economy whereby the government retained control of major industry while peasants' farms and small businesses could operate as private enterprises. Other features included relaxation of central economic control, the abandonment of grain requisitioning, to be replaced by a tax in kind allowing peasants to keep their food surpluses to sell for profit, restoring public markets and private trading, and reintroducing money as a mean of trading. This was a temporary and partial retreat to capitalism and essentially saved the regime from destruction following the scare caused by March 1921 Kronstadt rebellion.